Pregnant Black Waitress was abandoned by her ex and became homeless. Then a Korean Mafia boss found her on the road and changed her life. The rain was freezing, the kind that cuts through cheap jackets and soaks into your bones. Zara Williams stood on the sidewalk outside her former apartment building, watching her belongings get drenched. 3 trash bags of clothes, a box of kitchen supplies, her grandmother's quilt, now ruined, and clutched against her chest, protected by her body, a single envelope containing an ultrasound image. 8 weeks pregnant, alone, homeless. "Should have thought about that before you trapped me with a baby," Marcus had screamed 20 minutes ago, his new girlfriend Brittany smirking from the bedroom doorway. The bedroom that used to be theirs. The apartment Zara had paid most of the rent for while Marcus figured things out for 2 years. "I changed the locks." She tried to argue, reminded him that her name was on the lease too. But the lease had expired last month, and Marcus had renewed it. Just his name, just his signature. Legal, clean, brutally efficient. And now Zara stood in the rain at 11 p.m. on a Tuesday, 26 years old, 2 months pregnant, with nowhere to go and $304 in her bank account. Her phone had died an hour ago. Her best friend Keisha was out of town. Her mother was in Atlanta struggling with her own problems. The shelters would be full this time of night. And the father of her child, the man she'd loved, lived with, built a life with, had just thrown her out like garbage. A security guard from the neighboring building approached. Umbrella raised. Kind eyes. Concerned. "I'm fine," Zara lied, teeth chattering. He didn't believe her. She could see it in his face. But he nodded and returned to his post, glancing back periodically with that mixture of pity and helplessness that made shame burn in Zara's throat. She was a spectacle, a cautionary tale, a pregnant black woman with trash bags in the rain, the kind of image people would scroll past on social media with a sad emoji before moving on with their lives. She needed to move, needed to find somewhere warm and dry. Her job at the Sunrise Diner started at 6 a.m., only 7 hours away, and she couldn't afford to call in sick, couldn't afford anything anymore. So Zara grabbed her bags, wincing at the wait, and started walking. No destination, just movement, just survival. She made it 3 blocks before exhaustion and nausea hit simultaneously. Morning sickness was a lie. It happened all night, triggered by stress and hunger and the sheer overwhelming terror of her situation. Zara barely made it to an alley before vomiting, one hand braced against wet brick, the other protecting her stomach instinctively. When the heaving stopped, she looked up through tears and rain to find herself outside a restaurant. Kim's Palace, the sign read in both English and Korean characters. Lights still on despite the late hour, and through the window she could see people moving, staff cleaning up, a few remaining diners finishing meals. Warmth, the promise of it pulled Zara forward. She could sit in there for a few minutes, catch her breath, maybe order a cup of tea to justify taking up space. She had $3 in her pocket. That was enough for tea, right? The blast of heat when she opened the door nearly made her cry. Her fingers were numb, her clothes soaked through, her body shaking so hard she could barely walk straight. The hostess, a young Korean woman, took one look at Zara and her trash bags and her swollen eyes and opened her mouth to say something. Probably to ask her to leave. Probably to tell her this wasn't a shelter. A voice cut through the moment, deep, authoritative, speaking in Korean. The hostess straightened immediately, bowing slightly toward a man emerging from the back, and Zara forgot how to breathe. He was younger than she expected, maybe 28, 29, tall and lean, with the kind of face that belonged in magazines. Sharp cheekbones, dark eyes that seemed to miss nothing. Black hair styled back from his face. He wore all black, expensive black, the kind that screamed money even without labels. And he looked at Zara like she was the only person in the room. "You're soaked," he said in perfect English, slight accent adding weight to his words, "and you're shaking. Sit." "I can pay," Zara said quickly, pride flaring despite her desperation. His expression didn't change. "But tonight, you're my guest." It wasn't a request. Zara found herself being guided to a booth in the back, away from windows, away from stairs. The hostess, Mina, disappeared and returned with towels. The man gestured for her to dry off, then vanished into the kitchen. Zara should have left, should have recognized that accepting kindness from strangers could be dangerous. But she was so cold, so tired, so utterly defeated that she stayed. Dried her face and hands, tried to make herself smaller, less noticeable, less like the disaster she'd become. The man returned with food, not tea. Food. Steaming bowls of soup, tang, rich and milky. A plate of banchan. Rice, grilled mackerel. Enough for 3 people. He set it all down methodically, then slid into the booth across from her. Eat, he said simply. I can't accept this. His tone wasn't unkind, but it was firm. You're pregnant, you're cold, you're hungry. Zara's hand flew to her stomach instinctively. How did you, You've touched your stomach 6 times since you walked in. Protective, instinctive. He leaned back, studying her. 8, Yara admitted, something in his directness making her honest. I have 3 sisters. He gestured to the soup. Tang is gentle, good for upset stomachs. The broth has nutrients you need. The smell hit her, rich, comforting, nothing like the greasy diner food she served all day. Zara's stomach growled loudly enough to make her blush. The man's lips twitched in something that might have been amusement. She ate. God, she ate like she'd been starving. Because she had been. Not just tonight, but for weeks as pregnancy drained her appetite and money drained from covering Marcus's half of everything. The soup was perfect, hot and soothing, and exactly what her body needed. She worked through the banchan methodically, savoring each bite, and when she finally looked up, embarrassed by her desperation, she found the man still watching her. He asked, yes. Zara set down her spoon, reality crashing back. I should go. The question was gentle but penetrating. Those are trash bags beside you. Your clothes are soaked. Your phone is in your hand, but the screen is dark. Dead battery, I'm guessing. He tilted his head slightly. So I'll ask again. Zara's throat tightened. Perhaps not. He pulled out his phone, typed something quickly. I own a building 2 blocks from here. Small apartments, mostly for my staff. 1 unit is vacant. You can stay there tonight. He extended his hand across the table. People call me Jay. She shook his hand, feeling calluses that didn't match his expensive clothes. Zara Williams. His grip was firm, warm, grounding. She didn't. They both knew it. Zara pulled her hand back, mind racing. Why are you doing this? Right now? His expression remained neutral. Tomorrow we can discuss details. Tonight you need rest. Every survival instinct Zara had screamed danger. Strange man, offers too good to be true. But looking into Jay's eyes, she didn't see predatory intent. She saw something else. Something that looked almost like recognition. Like he understood exactly what it felt like to have nowhere to go. Okay, she heard herself say, one night. Jay stood, pulling out his phone again. My driver will take you. I'll have Mina pack some food for tomorrow. 20 minutes later, Zara found herself in the back of a black Mercedes sedan, her pathetic trash bags loaded in the trunk, a bag of Korean food on her lap, being driven by a silent man in a suit to an address she didn't know. This was how people disappeared. This was how women ended up in trafficking rings or worse. But when the car pulled up to a modest apartment building, nothing fancy but clean and safe looking, and the driver handed her a key with instructions in accented but clear English, no one tried to follow her inside. No one demanded anything. The apartment was small but furnished, clean sheets on the bed, towels in the bathroom, heat that actually worked. Zara locked the door, set down her bags, and finally let herself break. She slid down the wall and sobbed, for the relationship that died, for the baby growing inside her, for the terror of not knowing what came next, and for the strange, unexpected kindness of a man who'd looked at her like she deserved to be helped. She didn't know yet that Kang Jae-sung ran the most powerful Korean organized crime syndicate in Los Angeles. Didn't know that his restaurant was a front for money laundering. Didn't know that helping her would set off a chain of events that would change both their lives irrevocably. All she knew was that she was warm, she was safe, and for the first time in months, she could breathe. Zara woke to sunlight streaming through unfamiliar windows in a moment of pure panic before memory returned. The apartment, the restaurant, Jay. She scrambled for her phone, charged overnight in the wall outlet, and nearly cried with relief when it powered on. 5:47 a.m., 13 minutes until her shift started. She called the diner in a panic. Linda, it's Zara. Linda's voice was tired, unsympathetic. I got people who show up on time. Wait, please. I just need... The line went dead. Zara stared at her phone, shock giving way to the horrible realization that her situation had just gone from desperate to catastrophic. No job, no home, pregnant, $347 in the bank. She had maybe 2 weeks before money ran out completely. A knock at the door made her jump. She opened it cautiously to find Mina, the hostess from last night, holding a bag and a coffee. "Boss said you might need breakfast," Mina said in slightly accented English. Her expression was neutral, professional, but not unkind. She handed over a phone, newer than Zara's cracked piece of junk. "His number is programmed." Mina's expression didn't change. "He'll explain." She left before Zara could ask more questions. Inside the bag was more food, fresh fruit, yogurt, rice porridge, toast, and tucked underneath, an envelope. Zara opened it with shaking hands to find $500 in cash and a note in neat handwriting. "For immediate needs. We'll talk soon. Jay." $500, just given to her. By a man she'd met once. Zara sat on the bed, staring at the money, and felt tears coming again. This wasn't normal. People didn't do this, especially not for pregnant black women with trash bags and no prospects. She should give it back, should call him, thank him, and figure out her own mess. But the baby growing inside her needed food, needed shelter, needed a mother who could survive long enough to bring them into a safe world. And pride was a luxury Zara couldn't afford anymore. She called the number. Jay answered on the second ring. "Zara." The question burst out. The apartment, the food, the money. "Can you meet me? The restaurant? Noon." "I know." Mina followed up this morning. He didn't sound surprised. "All the more reason to meet." "The kind we should discuss in person." "Noon, Zara." The restaurant looked different in daylight. Still elegant, but less intimidating. Zara arrived at exactly noon, wearing the one decent outfit from her trash bags. Black slacks and a burgundy blouse that hid her small bump. Jay was waiting in the same booth from last night, paper spread across the table. He gestured for her to sit. "Coffee?" Zara slid into the booth, hyper-aware of how out of place she felt. Direct, Jay gathered his papers into a neat stack. "I need to know something first. The father of your baby, is he a threat to you?" The question caught her off guard. "Oh, I'm on." "No, Marcus is a lot of things, but he's not violent. He just doesn't want to be a father. Technically his apartment now." The shame of it burned. I was stupid, trusting. Something dark flickered across Jay's face. But his tone suggested otherwise. "Marcus Reed lives in Inglewood, and before you do whatever you are thinking of doing, don't. I don't need revenge." Jay studied her for a long moment, then nodded slowly. "Fair enough. So here's my proposition. I need someone to manage the front of house here. Hostess position initially, but with room to grow." Zara's mouth fell open. $4,500 a month? "You'd also handle some administrative tasks, scheduling, inventory coordination, customer relations." He slid a paper across the table. "The apartment you're in, part of the compensation package." This was too much. Way too much. "Why, you don't know me. You don't know if I'm any good at this work." "Because I'm a good judge of character." His eyes held hers. "But I'll be honest with you, Zara. This isn't purely altruistic. I need someone I can trust. Someone who doesn't have connections to my existing world." Zara leaned forward. "What does that mean exactly?" Jay didn't flinch from her gaze. "I run legitimate businesses. This restaurant, 3 others, a nightclub, real estate holdings. But I also have, let's call them traditional family operations." A slight smile. "But yes, my family has deep ties to what Americans call the Korean mob. I took over operations when my father died 3 years ago. I want you to work in my legitimate restaurant that sometimes hosts people from my less legitimate businesses. You'd be front of house. Professional. Legal." Zara sat back, mind reeling. This was insane, accepting help from organized crime. But the alternative was what? Homeless shelter with a baby on the way? Crawling back to Marcus? Begging her struggling mother for money she didn't have? She asked finally. "The catch is that you'll see things, meet people, overhear conversations, and you'll need to be smart enough to forget all of it the moment you leave work. Discretion isn't just preferred, It's mandatory. I spent 2 years with a man who cheated on me with half of Inglewood while I pretended not to notice. Jay's smile was genuine this time. Zara looked at the contract in front of her, at the salary that would change her life, at the apartment that meant stability, at the health insurance that meant her baby would be okay. And she thought about pride versus survival, about judgment versus pragmatism. One condition, she said. I won't do anything illegal. I won't lie to police. I won't hide evidence of crimes. I'll keep my mouth shut about what I see, but I won't actively participate in anything that could send me to prison. Agreed. Jay extended his hand. Zara took his hand, sealing her fate. The first week was a blur of learning systems, memorizing menus, and trying not to throw up from morning sickness in front of customers. The staff was mostly Korean, some speaking limited English, but they accepted Zara with surprising warmth once they understood she was under Jay's protection. You're his special project, Mina explained one night after closing. They were becoming friends, tentatively. Boss doesn't usually take personal interest in staff. What does he see? No, strength. Mina wiped down tables. He lost his mother young, raised by his father and his Halmoni, grandmother. He understands what it's like to need help. Zara didn't know what to do with that information. Jay was unfailingly professional with her, checked in daily to ensure she had what she needed, made sure she ate properly, even arranged for her to see a doctor through our healthcare provider, all legitimate, who confirmed the baby was healthy and thriving. But he kept his distance emotionally. Never pried into her personal life beyond practical concerns. Never touched her except professionally. A hand on her shoulder when she did good work. A steadying grip on her elbow when she stumbled one morning during a particularly bad bout of nausea. And Zara found herself noticing things. The way he moved, graceful but coiled, always aware of exits and threats. The way staff jumped to obey his quiet commands. The way certain men in expensive suits would arrive after hours, disappearing into the back office with Jay for meetings that left everyone tense. She saw things, just like he'd warned. Money changing hands in quantities that made her breath catch. Conversations in rapid Korean that stopped when she approached. Men with guns, concealed but visible if you knew what to look for. And through it all, Jay orchestrating everything with calm precision. You're adapting well, he said one night, 3 weeks into her employment. They were alone in the restaurant, Zara finishing closing duties while Jay worked on paperwork. The staff respects you. Customers like you. Zara wiped down the last table. You can ask. Why aren't you married? You're what, 28? Successful? Attractive? Jay looked up from his papers, expression unreadable. I'm curious, you're so focused on taking care of other people. Something shifted in his eyes. I was engaged 2 years ago. Her name was Sunhee. The air left Zara's lungs. Jay, I'm so sorry. I shouldn't have. She was pregnant too. His voice was flat, controlled, but she could hear the razor edge of grief underneath. I lost everything that mattered in one night because I couldn't protect them. He stood, gathering his papers. I helped you because you deserved help. But yes, seeing you pregnant and desperate. Zara crossed to him before she could think better of it. I'm sorry for your loss. Don't be. You asked an honest question. He looked down at her. She was tall, but he was taller, and something flickered in his expression. But Zara, this is why I keep distance. Why I can't afford to care too much. But even as Zara said it, she knew it was a lie, because somewhere between the kindness and the understanding and the quiet way he made sure she was okay, she'd started feeling things that were decidedly unprofessional. The pregnancy progressed. 12 weeks became 16, became 20. Zara's small bump became undeniable, and she waited nervously for judgment from customers. But Jay had spread the word. She was under his protection. Anyone who had a problem with a pregnant woman working could take their business elsewhere. No one did. If anything, she got more tips, more kindness, like Jay's approval made her untouchable. You're showing more now, Mina observed one afternoon. They were having lunch together, a ritual that had developed. Zara touched her stomach, the movement automatic now. Due in mid-May. You'll be a good mother. I'm scared. Strong people are always scared. Mina glanced toward the back office where Jay was meeting with someone. Boss asks about you, about the baby. He's concerned about an employee. Mina stood, clearing their plates. But I've worked on him for 4 years. I know what professional concern looks like. Zara wanted to argue, but she'd noticed it too. The way Jay's eyes tracked her across the room. The way he made sure she took breaks, ate properly, never lifted anything heavy. The way his jaw tightened whenever she mentioned Marcus or her situation. It came to a head one night when Marcus showed up. Zara was seating a party of 6 when she heard his voice. Zara? She turned, heart dropping, to find Marcus and Brittany standing at the hostess stand. He looked good, fresh haircut, new clothes, the casual confidence of someone whose life was going exactly as planned. Brittany clung to his arm, baby bump visible under her tight dress. I work here, Zara said, forcing professionalism. Welcome to Kim's Palace. You work? Marcus looked around at the elegant restaurant, clearly calculating how she could afford to work anywhere this nice. Then his eyes dropped to her stomach, to the bump she couldn't hide anymore. Jesus Christ, you're huge. 20 weeks. He stepped closer, voice dropping. You better not be telling people I abandoned you. Jay's voice cut through the tension like a blade. He appeared beside Zara, close enough that she could feel his presence, radiating controlled danger. Marcus looked Jay up and down, puffing up with false bravado. This doesn't concern you, man. Jay's tone was ice. Is that how you refer to the woman carrying your child? How do you, Marcus's eyes widened. Wait, you're the one, the guy who gave her that apartment. What, you fucking her now? Jay moved so fast Zara barely saw it. One moment he was beside her, the next he had Marcus pressed against the wall, forearm across his throat, eyes murderous. Say one more disrespectful word about her, please. Zara grabbed his arm, feeling the tension coiled there. Jay didn't take his eyes off Marcus, who was gasping for air. Pregnant, in the rain, left you with nothing. And if you kill him, I'll be the one who has to live with watching my baby's father die. Don't do that to me. The pleas got through. Jay released Marcus slowly, stepping back but keeping himself between Zara and her ex. You have 10 seconds to leave. If you ever come near her again, if you ever speak to her, even look in her direction, I will make you disappear in ways that leave no trace. Marcus scrambled for the door, Brittany following, both of them pale with terror. The restaurant had gone completely silent, every patron watching the drama unfold. Zara felt shame burning through her messy life on display, her failure as a girlfriend and mother-to-be exposed for everyone to see. Back to your meals, please, Jay said calmly to the dining room. Then to Zara, voice softening, come with me. He led her to his office in the back, closing the door before turning to face her. I'm fine, The words choked off as tears came. Great heaving sobs that she'd been holding back for months. All the fear and anger and humiliation pouring out. She sank into a chair, hands over her face, feeling pathetic and broken. She forced her eyes up, seeing something in his face that made her breath catch. Fury, yes, but also tenderness, also care, also something deeper that terrified and thrilled her in equal measure. That man is a coward and a fool. Nothing he said is true. You're not sloppy seconds. You're not any of the things he implied. I do. I've watched you for 4 months now. Watched you work through morning sickness without complaint. Watched you learn this job while dealing with pregnancy. Watched you be kind to everyone, even when you're exhausted. That's not weakness, Zara. His hands were still holding hers, warm, solid, real. Zara found herself leaning forward, drawn by something she couldn't name. He stood abruptly, putting distance between them. Don't say whatever you're about to say. He gestured between them. Whatever this is becoming, I can't afford to care about you more than I already do. It's too dangerous for both of us. You don't have to ask. The confession seemed torn from him. You think I don't notice? The way my day doesn't start until you walk through that door. The way I make excuses to check on you. He dragged a hand through his hair. The word hung between them. I can't. Because Jay, Zara stood, crossing to him, despite every rational thought screaming to stay away. I feel it too. Whatever this is, I've been trying to ignore it. Tell myself it's just gratitude or pregnancy hormones or rebound feelings. But it's not. You're vulnerable. You just saw your ex. My judgment is fine. And yes, I'm pregnant and broke and dependent on you for everything, which is exactly why I shouldn't be standing here telling you that I'm falling for you. But I am. Her name was a warning and a prayer. I can't be what you need. My life is violence and danger. You deserve peace, stability. I deserve a choice, and I'm choosing you." For a long moment, Jay just stared at her. Then he crossed the space between them and kissed her. It wasn't gentle, it was desperate and hungry, and tasted like all the longing they'd both been suppressing. Zara's hands fisted in his shirt, pulling him closer, and he wrapped his arms around her carefully, mindful of her pregnancy. When they finally broke apart, both breathing hard, Jay rested his forehead against hers. "Your ex is going to be a problem. So protect me." He laughed, the sound raw and unexpected. She kissed him again, softer this time. "We don't have to figure everything out tonight. But Jay, I need you to know something. I'm not Sun-Hee. I'm not going to break because your world is complicated. I know you are." He cupped her face, thumbs brushing her cheekbones. "But okay, we'll try. Carefully, with more security for you. You tell me immediately if anyone threatens you. You never go anywhere alone. And you let me handle anything related to your ex. Protective, there's a difference. If we're doing this, Jerome, I need to know you're safe. That baby is safe. I can't." His voice cracked slightly. "Then don't. We'll be careful. We'll be smart. But Jay, I'm not walking away from this." He kissed her forehead, lingering. The next 3 months transformed Zara's world. She moved into Jay's penthouse, for security reasons, he claimed, though they both knew it was more than that. He converted an entire room into a nursery, sparing no expense. Designer furniture, top-of-the-line monitors, more baby clothes than one infant could possibly wear. "This is too much," Zara protested as another delivery arrived. Jay's hand rested on Zara's stomach, feeling their daughter kick. He'd fallen completely for the baby, attending every doctor's appointment, reading pregnancy books, planning obsessively for her arrival. "She's yours." He pulled Zara close, kissing her temple. "I'm going to raise her as my daughter, Zara. Legally adopt her if you'll let me. Give her my name. Has signed away all parental rights." Zara should have asked what those options were, should have cared that Jay had likely threatened her ex into signing papers. But she didn't, because Marcus had proven it exactly what kind of father he'd be, and their daughter deserved better. "Kang Zaraman," she said softly, testing the name. "I want her to have a father who chooses her every day, who protects her, who shows her what love actually looks like. That's you, Jay." The emotion in his eyes nearly undid her. "I'll spend every day earning that trust." But happiness never lasted in Jay's world. The first threat came when Zara was 32 weeks pregnant, too round to move easily, vulnerable in ways that terrified her. She was at the restaurant. Jay had wanted her to stop working, but she'd insisted on keeping busy, when 3 men walked in. Not customers. She could tell by the way they moved, by the way Mina's face went pale. "We need to see Kang," the leader said in English with a thick accent. "He's not here," Zara said calmly, hand moving to the panic button under the hostess stand. The man's eyes dropped to her stomach, and Zara's blood ran cold. "Pretty thing, pregnant, very vulnerable. You tell Kang that Park wants to discuss the shipment." Well, security appeared, Jay's men always watching before the threat could escalate. But the message was clear. Zara was a target. The baby was a target. Everything Jay had feared was coming true. "You're not going back to the restaurant," Jay said that night, voice brooking no argument. His hand rested on her stomach protectively. "Zara, they threatened her. Threatened you both." "Yes, in comfort, in safety, with everything you need." The war that followed was brutal. Zara didn't see most of it. Jay kept her deliberately insulated. But she saw the aftermath. The tension in his shoulders, the blood on his clothes some nights, the way he held her tighter, like she might vanish. "Talk to me," she said one night, finding him standing at the nursery window at 3 a.m. "That's not talking." He turned, and she saw the exhaustion in his face, the weight of violence. "I've killed 6 men in the past 2 weeks, personally, and I'll kill 6 more if it keeps you safe." "Jay, you want honesty? Here it is. I'm dismantling Park's organization piece by piece, burning down their operations, making examples of anyone who dared threaten my family. And I don't feel guilty about it." Zara should have been horrified, should have seen the monster in him. Instead, she crossed the room and wrapped her arms around him as best she could, with her belly between them. Then let me help you feel something else. They made love carefully, tenderly, Jay treating her like something precious and breakable. And afterward, curled against his side, Zara felt the baby kick between them, a reminder of what they'd built together, what they were fighting for. I'm scared, she admitted in the darkness. Not of you, but of losing this. You won't. His hand found hers, linking their fingers. 2 more weeks until your due date. Park will be finished by then. You'll be safe. And then what? Then I start to transition out. I've been building toward it for 2 years. Legitimate businesses, legal investments, exit strategies. This baby gave me the push I needed to actually do it. I want to be a father she can be proud of, Zara. You're worth it. She's worth it. Zara went into labor 3 weeks early, at 37 weeks, in the middle of Jay's final confrontation with Park. She was home with 2 security guards when her water broke, pain hitting in waves that took her breath away. Call Jay, she gasped to Min Seo, one of the guards. Min Seo was on the phone immediately, rapid Korean flying as he coordinated with Jay's team. Boss is 10 minutes out. Zara gritted her teeth through another contraction. We need to go, hospital. The drive was a blur, pain and fear and the terror that Jay wouldn't make it, that she'd face this alone after all. But when they arrived at the hospital, the private one Jay had arranged, everything prepaid and planned, he was there, bursting through the emergency entrance with blood on his shirt and wild eyes. Zara. Not mine, doesn't matter. How are you? She grabbed his hand as another contraction hit. Wild horses couldn't keep me away. He kissed her forehead, then her lips. Labor lasted 14 hours. Brutal, exhausting hours where Zara discovered pain she didn't know existed. But Jay stayed beside her the entire time, letting her crush his hand, murmuring encouragement in English and Korean, being exactly what she needed. And then, at 7:23 a.m. on a Wednesday morning, Kang Zaramin entered the world screaming, 6 pounds, 4 ounces of furious infant with her mother's complexion and a full head of dark hair. She's perfect, Zara sobbed, holding her daughter for the first time. Jay stood beside them, and when Zara looked up, she saw tears streaming down his face, raw, unashamed emotion. She's everything. You're everything. His voice broke. Thank you for trusting me. He took Zaramin with shaking hands, cradling her like she might break. The baby quieted immediately, dark eyes still unfocused, seeming to find his face. And something in Jay transformed. The hardness softened, the violence drained away. He became, in that moment, just a father holding his child. I'm going to give you the world, he whispered to the baby. Everything good, everything safe. I'm going to be the father you deserve. The first 3 months were chaos, beautiful, exhausting chaos. Zara learned to function on 2 hours of sleep. Jay learned to change diapers and make bottles at 3 a.m. ZM, as they called her, learned to smile and coo and completely own both her parents' hearts. I don't know how people do this alone, Zara said one night, delirious with exhaustion. ZM had been crying for 2 hours straight, teething making her miserable. Jay took the baby, swaying gently. Go sleep. They can wait. He kissed ZM's forehead, already humming some Korean lullaby his grandmother had taught him. Sleep, Zara. She wanted to argue, but exhaustion won. When she woke 6 hours later, sunlight streaming through windows, she found Jay asleep in the nursery rocking chair with ZM sprawled on his chest, both of them peaceful. Her phone had 17 missed calls. Apparently his morning meeting had been important, but he'd chosen his daughter instead. You're going to spoil her, Zara said softly, not really meaning it as criticism. Jay's eyes opened, immediately alert. I'm going to love her. Your meeting can be rescheduled. She needed me. And Zara fell in love with him all over again. This man who had been a stranger 7 months ago, who'd seen her at her lowest and offered not pity, but partnership, who'd taken another man's baby and claimed her as his own without hesitation. ZM's first birthday party was an event. Jay invited what seemed like half of LA's Korean community, plus Zara's friends and family. Her mother flew in from Atlanta, skeptical until she saw how Jay was with ZM, how he doted and protected and loved without reservation. He's good to you, her mother said, watching Jay chase their toddler daughter around the yard. And to my grandbaby. Her mother squeezed her hand. Baby, we all have our complexities. What matters is whether a man chooses his family, and that man, He chose you and ZM over everything. The party was winding down when an unexpected guest arrived. Marcus, cleaned up and sober-looking, standing at the gate with security blocking his entry. "Let him in," Jay said quietly. Zara started to protest, but he shook his head. "Let's handle this now." Marcus approached cautiously, eyes finding ZM, now walking, talking, clearly thriving. "She's beautiful," he said. "To apologize." He looked at Jay. "You gave her everything I couldn't, everything she deserved, and I was wrong." Jay's voice was carefully neutral. "That's all. I'm not here to cause problems or claim rights I signed away. I needed to see that she was okay." Marcus swallowed hard. "And you are. Better than okay, so thank you." He left without trying to hold Zara, without asking for anything. And Zara felt something release, the last thread of anger and resentment finally snapping. Jay asked, pulling her close. "Yeah." She watched their daughter toddle toward them, arms up, demanding to be held. 5 years later, Zara stood in the kitchen of their house. They'd moved to a real house with a yard, security discreetly positioned, making breakfast while ZM practiced her Korean with Jay at the table. Their son, 3-year-old Marcus Kang, named for Jay's father, not her ex, banged his spoon enthusiastically against his high chair. "Mama, I'm hungry," ZM announced in English before switching to Korean to tell Jay the same thing. Zara plated pancakes, marveling at her life, at how far she'd come from that night in the rain with trash bags and nowhere to go. She had a home now, a family, a husband who'd made good on his promise to go legitimate. He still had influence, still had connections, but the violence and danger had faded into carefully managed business. "Penny for your thoughts," Jay said, appearing behind her to wrap his arms around her waist. "Just thinking about how I got here." "Not a single one." He kissed her neck softly, though I suppose the timing was perfect. We both needed to be broken first. "I'm deep," ZM giggled from the table. "Daddy's always silly," Marcus agreed, even though he could barely string sentences together. "See?" Jay released Zara to go tickle ZM, her squeals of laughter filling the kitchen. And Zara thought about that pregnant, homeless woman from 6 years ago, about the terror and hopelessness, about thinking her life was over before it really began. She'd been wrong. Her life had just been waiting for the right moment to start, for the right person to see her, really see her, and choose to build something beautiful from the broken pieces. ZM called. Zara grabbed the plates and joined her family at the table. Her real family. The one she'd built from nothing but hope and stubborn refusal to give up. And as Jay's hand found hers under the table, squeezing gently, she sent up a silent thank you to the universe for that rainy night, for the desperation that had driven her through the doors of Kim's palace, for the man who'd seen her drowning and pulled her to shore. Some love stories start with meet-cutes and butterflies. Some start with tragedy and trauma. But the best ones, the ones that last, those start with two broken people deciding to be brave enough to heal together, to build something impossible, to choose each other every single day despite the odds. That was their story, and it was still being written. Marcus demanded, banging his spoon. "Please," Jay corrected gently. Jay looked at Zara across the table, eyes full of everything they'd survived and everything they'd built. And Zara, once homeless and hopeless, now surrounded by love and light and the beautiful chaos of the life she'd fought for, smiled and thought, "Yes, this is exactly where I'm supposed to be." 10 years later, Zara stood in the wings of a community center stage, watching her daughter, now 16, give a speech about immigrant rights and cultural preservation. ZM had inherited Jay's intensity and Zara's compassion, becoming exactly the kind of leader the world needed. "She's incredible," Jay murmured beside her, pride radiating from every pore. "She's herself." Their younger children, Marcus at 13 and surprise baby twins Minha and Minjun at 7, sat in the front row with Zara's mother, who'd moved to LA 5 years ago to be closer to her grandchildren. The family Zara had thought she'd never have, all gathered to support ZM. "I'm thinking about writing a book," Zara said suddenly, "about that night. I know, but maybe some pregnant woman will read it while she's scared and alone, and maybe it'll give her hope." Jay pulled her close, kissing her temple. "Then write it. Tell our story. Show the world that love doesn't have to be neat or easy or conventional." ZM finished her speech to thunderous applause, and Zara watched her daughter bask in the recognition she'd earned. This girl who'd started life in chaos and trauma, who'd been rejected by her biological father but claimed by a man who chose to love her, who'd grown up understanding that family wasn't about blood, it was about showing up every single day. "Thank you," Zara said to Jay as their family gathered for photos afterward, "for that night in the restaurant, for seeing me. Thank you for being brave enough to let me, for trusting a stranger with everything." They posed for photos, a family that defied every stereotype, every expectation. Black and Korean, born from crime and poverty and second chances. Proof that love could conquer anything if you fought hard enough for it. And later, driving home with their chaos of children in the back, Jay's hand found Zara's across the console. 16 years of marriage, 17 since that first night, and they still reached for each other automatically. Still chose each other, still built their life together one day at a time. Jay asked, echoing their ritual question. "Not a single one." "Only that I can't go back and thank that younger version of myself for being brave enough to help you." Jay lifted her hand to his lips. "You saved yourself. I just gave you a safe place to heal. Everything else?" Zara thought about that pregnant, desperate woman from 17 years ago, about the trash bags and the rain and the certainty that life was over. And she sent that version of herself a message across time. "Hold on. I promise it gets better. I promise you survive this. I promise there's a man in a restaurant who'll see your worth even when you can't. Hold on." Because she had held on, had survived, had built something beautiful from the ashes. And now, surrounded by the family she'd created and the life she'd fought for, Zara understood the truth. Sometimes you have to lose everything to find what really matters. Sometimes the best love stories start in the rain, with nothing but hope and a stranger's kindness. Sometimes that's enough. Sometimes that's everything. Epilogue: 25 years after that rainy night, Zara published her book, From Rain to Redemption, a love story built on second chances. It became an unexpected bestseller, resonating with single mothers, immigrants, anyone who'd ever felt disposable. The launch party was held at Kim's Palace, still running, still successful, now completely legitimate and award-winning. Someone called from the crowd. Zara stood, looking around at the faces gathered. Her children, all grown now. ZM with her fiancé, Marcus in law school, the twins starting high school, her mother now in her 70s but still sharp as ever, Jay's sisters and their families. Mina, still her closest friend after all these years, and Jay, standing at the back of the room looking at her the same way he had that first night, like she was worth everything. 25 years ago, Zara began, I stood outside this restaurant in the rain, pregnant, homeless, certain my life was over. I had $3 in my pocket and nowhere to go, and then I walked through that door. She pointed to the entrance. Some of you know the story, some of you lived it with us. But what the book doesn't fully capture is this. It wasn't just about finding love. It was about finding myself, about learning that my worth wasn't determined by who left me, but by who chose to stay. Laughter rippled through the crowd. Jay smiled from his corner. We weren't a perfect match. Korean Mafia Boss and pregnant Black Waitress. The odds were against us. The world didn't think we'd last a month. But here we are, 25 years, 4 children. And you know what I learned? Love isn't about perfection. It's about showing up. It's about building something beautiful from broken pieces. So to anyone out there who's in their rain moment right now, who's standing outside with trash bags wondering how they'll survive the night, who thinks they're too broken, too complicated, too much trouble to love, I'm here to tell you, you're not. You're exactly enough. Hold on, the story isn't over. She raised her glass. To second chances, to unconventional love stories, to building families from choice instead of blood, to starting over, the crowd echoed. Afterward, while the party swirled around them, Jay pulled Zara onto the small dance floor. They swayed together, fitting perfectly after a quarter century of practice. Good speech, he murmured against her hair. I know. He pulled back to look at her, eyes soft. I had a good teacher. She taught me that words matter, that showing up matters. The smartest? You were perfect. He kissed her softly, ignoring the catcalls from their children. At least, Zara agreed. Maybe 50? Good. And as they danced in the restaurant where it all began, surrounded by the family, and life they'd built from nothing but hope and stubborn determination. Zara thought about that younger version of herself, the one who'd thought rain and rejection were the end of her story. Look at us now, she thought. Look at what we survived. Look at what we built. Sometimes the worst night of your life is just the beginning of your best story. Sometimes all you need is someone to see you, really see you, and choose you anyway. Sometimes love finds you in the rain, offers you soup, and changes everything. And sometimes, if you're very brave and very lucky, that's enough to build forever.